Hey everyone, it's nutritionist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com bringing you yet another episode of Doing Keto Without the Crazy. I have a very important topic to talk with you about today, but before I do that, I just came back from donating blood here at the Red Cross Blood Donation Center in Durham, North Carolina, and I would like to put in a little plug for blood donation. If you are eligible to donate blood, please do it if you can. It is one of the most important selfless acts I think a person can do. And it's really important that those of us who are eligible and are able to do it actually do it, because there's a lot of different things that can make someone ineligible or disqualify them from donating. Taking certain medications can disqualify a person. Traveling to or having lived in or spent a certain amount of time in certain parts of the world can disqualify somebody. I think being an organ recipient or having certain types of cancer in your history, there's a lot of different things that make many people ineligible to donate. And there's a constant need for blood all the time, right? God forbid any of us should be in a situation where we're in a life or death emergency and we need blood. We would want those hospital blood banks to be nice and full of lots of blood, right? So do donate if you can. And no, when you leave, you don't have to drink orange juice. You don't have to eat cookies. I usually just sit there and have water. Sometimes I have coffee. The interesting thing is that when you're on a low carb diet, you don't actually feel the least bit dizzy or like you're going to pass out when you lose a pint of blood, because your brain is not looking for all that glucose you just lost, right? Anyway, do give blood if you can. I really think it's a wonderful thing to do, and it's kind of a shame that anytime there's a huge crisis, like some type of catastrophic, weather emergency, or like after 9/11, people are lined up around the block to donate blood. But why do we have to wait until there's some type of cataclysmic event like that? This should be a regular thing for the people that are eligible. Okay, I've said my piece about that. Let's talk about insulin. I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video. This video is more of an intro to some videos that I will be doing in the future. They're not going to be all in a row. I'm going to intersperse them with different topics. I've kind of made mention here and there in previous videos about the fact that most of us are used to hearing about insulin as a blood sugar hormone, right? That's what insulin does. It lowers your blood sugar. That's why people with type 2 diabetes that's out of control, or people with type 1 diabetes who don't make insulin, that's why they need to take insulin, because it's the only way to bring their blood sugar back down. However, lowering blood sugar is only one of many roles that insulin has. And if you look on my channel, I've done videos on PCOS. I've done videos on the male equivalent of PCOS, which includes male pattern baldness, erectile dysfunction, and BPH, enlarged prostate gland. And I talked about how insulin affects those. And I'm going to have videos in the future coming up that talk about the role of insulin in gout, in hypertension, high blood pressure, in skin issues, acne, skin tags, all kinds of other stuff, migraine, headaches, acid reflux isn't so much the insulin, but the point is, insulin does a whole lot besides regulate your blood sugar. If all insulin did was affect your blood sugar, why would it be such a huge factor in PCOS, in prostate gland enlargement, in erectile dysfunction, in hypertension, in gout, in Alzheimer's disease, right? I don't have a copy handy, but I wrote a book about Alzheimer's disease, and I explain how it is driven, at least in part, by chronically high insulin. Well, what does Alzheimer's have to do with blood sugar or insulin? You could read my book to find out. But anyway, the point is, the more I've learned about metabolism over the years and hormones, and especially insulin, the more I've come to appreciate that lowering blood sugar is actually a very minor part of what insulin really does in the body. And this is part of why diabetics, both those with type 1 and type 2, who use insulin, especially what we call supraphysiologic doses, meaning doses much higher than your own body would probably produce. We're injecting loads of it. Why they have massive, massive health problems long term from that. The long-term complications that diabetes suffer, they're not just from the high blood sugar, they're not just from the hyperglycemia, they come from the hyperinsulinemia too. And I'm going to link in the notes to some really important blog posts I've written. The first one is part 1 in a multi-part series I did on insulin. It's called It's the Insulin Stupiditis. And it's long and detailed, but if you want to really understand this stuff, I do recommend reading it. I know if you're watching videos, it's probably because you're not into reading, but there's so much more information and education I can put into those posts than I feel like I can give you in a video. But let's let me get into the heart of matters before this video becomes even longer than I think it'll be. When I say that insulin does so much more than lower blood sugar. Insulin does still lower the blood sugar. So let's talk about that, because that's probably what you're most familiar with it doing. The first post in that multi-part series is an introduction to this concept that I'm about to explain to you now. There is a big problem with how we diagnose type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is diagnosed solely through looking at measurements of blood glucose or blood sugar. If I ever say blood glucose or blood sugar, same thing, totally interchangeable terms. We only ever look at your fasting blood sugar, your hemoglobin A1C, which is a longer term measurement of your blood sugar level in general, or your response to the oral glucose tolerance test. That's where you drink liquid glucose and they take your blood sugar measurement at like half an hour, maybe 1 or 2 hours after. That is the only way they diagnose type 2 diabetes. They never, ever, ever look at your insulin level. This is, in my opinion, a gaping cavern, canyon hole of a gap in modern medicine today. It might even be the biggest gaping hole. And the reason it's a huge gaping hole is because there are quite literally, without exaggeration, literally millions of people walking around. You might even be one of them watching this right now, whose blood sugar is normal. Your fasting level is normal, your A1C is normal, maybe even your response to that oral glucose test is normal. But those things are only normal. The blood sugar is only normal because it's being kept in check by sky-high insulin. And you and your doctor are not going to know any of this because they're not testing insulin. Again, this is my opinion, but I think a fasting insulin test should absolutely 100% yesterday have become a standard part of the routine blood work, like your blood sugar, like your stupid cholesterol, which has way less to do with anything than your insulin level does. And so many of these conditions are being mistreated, I would say, treated improperly because nobody's making the connection to insulin. Now, lots of keto-oriented doctors and nutritionists and other allied medical and health professionals are making the connection, but it's not happening on a grand enough scale. It's all over the medical literature once you look for it. But, you know, it's your blood sugar will remain normal as long as your pancreas is pumping out enough insulin to keep it normal, and as long as your cells and tissues are responding to that insulin by sucking up the glucose. But here's the thing, this little sort of like rat race, this race between the blood glucose and the insulin can happen for years and years and years, right? The blood sugar's coming up, but the insulin is also going up. Blood sugar's coming up, insulin's also going up. It's only when one or two or both things happen, When your pancreas is no longer capable of secreting enough insulin to keep that glucose normalized, or your pancreas is still pumping out a crap ton, yes, that's the scientific term, a crap ton of insulin, but your body's not listening to it anymore. So even though your blood is full of insulin, your cells don't listen to it, they don't care, they've become insensitive to it, so your blood sugar rises. Even though there's lots of insulin, the cells are not taking up the glucose. Now we have the glucose overcoming, right? The glucose is high now, but by the time the glucose is measurably high on a blood test, whether that is the fasting level, the A1C, or the response to the oral glucose tolerance test, by the time that glucose is high, the insulin might have been rising for years, perhaps decades. And so we have tons and tons of people whose doctors say, well, you're not diabetic, so you're fine. You're not diabetic. We don't know why you can't lose weight. We don't know why you have skin tags. We don't know why the skin in the folds of your knees and your neck is turning black. That's something called acanthosis nigricans. I'll talk about that in the insulin and skin video. We don't know why you have gout, even though you're not eating any red meat anymore, right? That's the recommendation that's incorrect, but I'll get to that in the gout video. We don't know why you have high blood pressure. You're not eating any salt. I don't know why your blood pressure is high. These are the conditions they call idiopathic, right? Or essential. They call it essential hypertension or idiopathic. Idiopathic means nobody knows what causes it. It doesn't mean it doesn't have a cause. It just means we don't know what the cause is yet. So if nobody can identify the cause of you having high blood pressure or erectile dysfunction or BPH or gout or whatever, they call it essential or idiopathic. And the reason it's idiopathic is because nobody's measuring insulin. If they would measure insulin, guess what? Not idiopathic anymore. And so in the videos that I do specific to each of these conditions, I'll talk about the details. I don't want to go into the details now. What I want to do is kind of introduce you to the concept that, I could be describing you right now. I could be describing your mother, your father, your son, your daughter, your friend, your sister, your pastor, your rabbi, whatever. Again, millions of people have this issue. They're being told they're not diabetic. They are hyperinsulinemic, even if they're not diabetic. And in my opinion, hyperinsulinemia is type 2 diabetes. And I'm going to walk away from the camera for 1 sec. I should have planned this better. There is a book about this. It's on my bookshelf over there. I'm going to go get it. I'll be right back. If I can find it. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Took me a minute to find it. It's called Diabetes, Epidemic, and You, and it's by Dr. Joseph Kraft. You can see it's a teeny tiny book. You can read this book in mere hours. It only take you like 2 hours to read. It's brilliant. I mean, you can see I've got stuff highlighted. I've got little sticky tabs so I can find stuff that I want to find. Dr. Kraft basically equates hyperinsulinemia and type 2 diabetes. They are the same thing in his mind, because the only reason he actually called it occult diabetes. Occult means hidden. The diabetes defined by the high blood sugar is hidden by the high insulin. The only reason someone isn't diagnosed with diabetes is because the blood sugar is normal. But take away that pathologically high insulin, and guess what? Now the blood sugar is high. Congratulations, you have type 2 diabetes. And the thing is, and he even said people with cardiovascular disease not associated with diabetes are simply undiagnosed. I totally agree. I'll have a video on cardiovascular disease separately where we'll talk all about the insulin issue. And he also, and remember, this is a point that I make all the time on my blog. I don't talk about it as much in my videos, although I'm going to start, because it's a personal sticking point to me. Not everybody who has type 2 diabetes or who is hyperinsulinemic is obese. These are not metabolic problems exclusive to people that are overweight or obese. You can be walking around at a perfectly quote unquote normal or healthy body weight. And I know last video I said I wasn't going to do those air quotes again. Too bad. I guess it's just hardwired into me. This is not a problem exclusive to overweight people. And I'm going to pause a sec because my video is blurry. Let's let it clear up. There we go. Being quote unquote thin or fitting into your size 4 dress or your size 33 pants if you're a man, that does not automatically mean that you don't have this problem. There are tons and tons and tons of people at an enviable weight, I should say, maybe. I don't want to say normal, I don't want to say healthy, because there's no such thing as a normal weight. As evidenced by all this stuff, you can be, let's just say you can be someone who is not overweight or obese, yet have raging type 2 diabetes, or have skin tags, or have cardiovascular disease, or gout, or hypertension, or Alzheimer's, or any of these other conditions that are intimately tied to chronically high insulin. And so I'm looking right here, good old Dr. Kraft said, I had the page before and then I put it down. Non-obesity is of equal importance. Not everyone with type 2 diabetes is obese. Normal weight, normal BMI, normal fasting blood sugar, and normal fasting insulins do not exclude hyperinsulinemia type 2 diabetes. He says it right there, hyperinsulinemia type 2 diabetes. He uses the phrases together because to him they're the same thing, and they are to me too. And I should point out, he says, even normal, I know you can't see, normal fasting insulin doesn't exclude the fact that you have this problem. When I talk about chronically high insulin or hyperinsulinemia, I mean chronically, I mean like, I wouldn't say all the time, most of the time. So there's a weakness, there's a flaw with the fasting insulin measurement. And it's the same flaw with the fasting blood sugar measurement. This is why the A1C is a little more important than the fasting blood sugar, even though the A1C has shortcomings of its own. So before I go any further, I'll just say, you can never look at one single measurement in isolation and determine anything by it, whether it's an A1C or a fasting glucose or a triglyceride or an HDL or a, ALT, the liver enzymes, whatever. You have to look at a lot of different parts and pieces, like as a mosaic, to get the full picture of what's going on with you metabolically, physiologically. Now that I've said that, the problem with the fasting level of glucose or insulin is that in a lot of people, the fasting level is normal, right? You go to the doctor, maybe it's at least usually 8 hours since you had a meal, usually more like 12 or more, right? You have dinner, you know you have to go to the lab for a blood test in the morning, so you don't have your normal nighttime snack, you skip breakfast, you're not even really supposed to have coffee before a blood draw. So you go, it's been many, many hours since you last ate or drank anything except water. So by the time you're at the lab, your blood sugar is totally normal, your insulin's totally normal. So your fasting levels of those things are gonna be normal. The problem is, let's say you're on a typical American or Canadian or Western, whatever, wherever you're watching this from, a typical modern higher carb diet. Your fasting levels of blood sugar and insulin are normal. Then you have your bagel, or you have your English muffin with grape jam, you have your glass of orange juice, you have your coffee with really sugary creamer. Now, the blood sugar and insulin are skyrocketing and they're gonna stay elevated for a large part of the day. In some people, they don't even have a chance to come back to normal before the next meal or before the next snack 2 or 3 hours later, right, if you're snacking all day. So the fasting level is flawed in that sense. It doesn't identify the problem of your level being much higher after a meal or after a snack. I still think, and I think most people would agree, the fasting level is still really helpful, because if the fasting level is elevated, you already know there's a problem. If it's not, if your fasting level of glucose or insulin, or if those are normal, but you know, or your doctor knows, that you are living with signs or symptoms of chronically high blood sugar or chronically high insulin, then that clues you into the fact that you're one of those people that falls into that category where the fasting level is normal, but your levels throughout most of the day might be high. And so, but I'm actually working on a blog post right now about how not to freak out if your fasting blood sugar is a little high, because high is a relative term. I'm not talking about 175 high milligrams per deciliter. I don't know what that is in millimolar, I'm sorry, but I'm not talking about very high. I'm talking about 105, 115, maybe even 120. That doesn't scare me, because there's a lot of different reasons why that could be high. If your fasting level of glucose or insulin was very high, maybe it's worth repeating the test to make sure it wasn't a lab error. And then if it's really high again, you know there's a problem. If it's not high, if it's normal, but you're still living with signs and symptoms of an issue, you can kind of guess that you probably have the chronically high issue, even if your fasting levels are normal. And I know you're probably wondering, Amy, what is a normal fasting insulin? Because fasting glucose, we all know, we like to see it below 99 or below 100 milligrams per deciliter. If it's a little bit higher, that's okay. There's a lot of people, again, that have 110, 115, 120, not a big deal at all, especially if your glucose level throughout most of the rest of the day is lower than that. That's a very well-recognized issue, that some people have higher sugar in the morning, and it happens for a lot of different reasons. So don't freak out if your blood sugar is not 99 or below first thing in the morning. I'm more concerned with talking about insulin now. When you go to a lab, if you have insulin tested, and you should be able to ask your doctor for it, it's not unheard of. It's not a standard part of the blood work, so you do have to ask for it, but it's not some weird esoteric test that they've never heard of. They might not want to do it. You might have to convince them a little bit, and they might say, oh, insulin, you mean glucose, right? No, you have to insist, well, yes, doctor, thank you. I do want my glucose tested, but I really, really want the insulin tested as well. If they won't do it, in the US, except for in certain states, I think New York, New Jersey, and Rhode Island maybe, but don't quote me on that, you can go to directlabs.com, maybe I'll put a link to that in the notes here. You can get a fasting insulin test for a whopping $34. It is worth every penny, 34 small meager dollars to get a fasting insulin test, although your doctor should have no problem ordering it if you ask for it. If you get it tested, depending on the lab you use, the normal range that it tells you on the printout will be, I want to say, like up to 20 or 25, and it goes by like international units per liter or micro international units, whatever the measurement is. I think that's what it is, like below 20 or 25. We like to see it below 10 for the fasting level. Below 5 is even better. I don't think you necessarily need to worry if you're not below 5, but if you're in the double digits for fasting insulin, there's a problem. So, and I'm not a doctor, as always. That's not medical advice. That's just something that our community in general pretty much agrees on. You don't want to be in the double digits for your fasting insulin. So let's see, what else can I say? I definitely recommend checking out Dr. Kraft's book. Now, Dr. Kraft's work, basically, this book was the inspiration and the basis for the multi-part blog series I mentioned that I wrote on insulin. It is such important life-saving, life-changing information in here that nobody's talking about. All of these weird, seemingly inexplicable medical issues that nobody's connecting to insulin because nobody's measuring insulin. I have a very dear friend who struggles with his weight. He's fairly obese, and he doesn't have a whole lot of other medical problems, but you know, for years he's been kind of chasing this, like trying to lose weight, and he does low carb, but he really has a very hard time sticking to it, so it's kind of sometimes on, sometimes off. So we all know you're not really going to get the results you need if you're kind of doing it that way. So he's struggled for years and years with the weight. And his endocrinologist is baffled because his fasting glucose is perfectly normal. His A1C is perfectly normal. And I said to this friend, you need to test your insulin, because I can almost guarantee you, I can absolutely guarantee you your insulin is high, and that's the problem, because we all know insulin inhibits the breakdown of fat, right? So if your insulin is chronically high, you're going to have a hell of a time losing body fat. So he got the fasting insulin tested, and you know what it was? 32. That is phenomenally high, even by the conventional standards, which we agree are crazy. Even by that standard, it's high, let alone by our much, much more conservative low-carb keto standards. We want it in the single digits. His is 32. I could have told him that without him testing it, but anyway, I also had another dear friend many years ago. She was actually my housemate. She struggled desperately with a lot of different health problems. She was fairly overweight, and she had the most gorgeous legs. She had such shapely legs. She carried almost all of the weight around the midsection. She really had that apple shape to her. And she had high blood pressure. She had skin tags. She had, I'm trying to think of what else, very bad IBS, very, very terrible acid reflux, to the point that she went to the hospital once because she thought she was having a heart attack. That's how severe the reflux was. And of course, we're talking 20 years ago at this point. So before I knew anywhere near as much as I know about this now, same thing. She had been to the doctor. Oh, thank God I'm not diabetic. I think she even did the oral glucose tolerance test, so they knew she wasn't diabetic. Looking back at all the health problems that I know she dealt with, and the fact that she was told she wasn't diabetic because they measured the glucose, I can now infer she probably had massive, massive hyperinsulinemia. And so I might be describing you watching this right now. You're baffled, your doctor's baffled, your nurse practitioner is baffled, everybody's baffled because your blood work looks great. You're not diabetic. We don't know why you have all these problems. You can almost guarantee it's the insulin. And that's why I named that blog series, It's the Insulin, Stupid. What else can I say? I guess I'll just clarify a little more this Dr. Kraft's book. I also want to thank Ivor Cummins. You probably know him. He goes by the Fat Emperor online. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's got a great podcast, the Fat Emperor podcast. Ivor is the one who kind of unearthed the work of Dr. Kraft several years ago. I think my blog series is in like 2015 or something, so it's already been a few years. I would not know about any of this. This was brought to my attention by Ivor. So thanks to Ivor for that. I'm not sure of his website. I'm not sure it's fatemperor.com or thefatemperor.com. You know how to use search engines. Type Ivor Cummins, Cummins. So Dr. Kraft is the one who discovered the staggering scope of the number of people that had the diabetes in situ, that occult diabetes, all these millions of people that had normal blood sugar because that blood sugar was being kept in check by the, I will say, pathologically, meaning dangerously high insulin. What Dr. Kraft did was the normal glucose tolerance test is where you drink liquid glucose, and like I said, the doctor, or you do it in a lab, they measure your blood glucose at, I think it's 30 minutes after, 1 hour, and 2 hours after. Dr. Kraft modified the test. It's now actually called the Kraft test. What he did was, instead of stopping at the 2 hour mark, he extended the test to 5 hours. So you test at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 hours. You get many more data points. And here's the big deal that Kraft did. Instead of only testing glucose, he tested insulin. That is how he saw this. That is how he said, holy, you know what? I'm not sure what he said. That's what I would have said if I were him. Holy, look at all these people coming through my lab that I'm looking, they look healthy, they're thin, they're not overweight, they don't look debilitated, and their blood sugar is normal. Holy cow, then we run this test and their insulin is all really, really high. And the thing is, like I was saying, how the chronically high insulin can precede the diabetes diagnosis because it precedes that blood sugar finally becoming elevated by many, many years. It's also kind of the canary in the coal mine for cardiovascular disease, for Alzheimer's disease, for gout, hypertension, really most especially cardiovascular disease though, because it's kind of like a lot of people, for some people, the first sign of cardiovascular disease is death from a heart attack. You have no signs or symptoms, not even shortness of breath, not AFib, not a weird heart arrhythmia, no nothing. You keel over and die, and that's how your family discovers you had serious cardiovascular disease. So to identify all of the people that have the chronically elevated insulin when they're young or before these health problems take your life, before they become debilitating, it's like I said, it's just a huge gaping hole. And this chronic hyperinsulinemia is, I am absolutely 100% convinced, at the heart of so many medical issues, including mental health issues, including, mental and emotional, whether it's depression, anxiety, bipolar, all kinds of stuff. And I'll have videos again. The chronically high insulin is at the heart of so much of this. And the reason we don't know is literally as simple as the fact that very few doctors test for insulin. And like I said, the problem is even in some people, that fasting level of insulin will be normal. So they might test and be like, oh, you don't have high insulin. But again, after a meal, especially after a high carb meal, now we've got the high insulin throughout most of the day. The good news is, I would say, and I'll probably repeat this in the videos that I do on those individual conditions, even so, if your fasting insulin is normal, but again, you have issues that I'm saying are probably related to chronically high insulin, like could be the migraines, could be the skin tags, erectile dysfunction, BPH, gout, hypertension, whatever. There are indirect ways to kind of, I want to say guess, it's not really guess, I mean it's like an educated guess, indirect indicators that most likely you do have this insulin problem. And one of them would be your triglyceride to HDL ratio. You want triglycerides that are relatively low, HDL that's relatively high. If your triglycerides are many, many times greater than your HDL, that's kind of an indicator that you are consuming far too much carbohydrate for your individual sensitivity, and that because of that, your insulin is probably high most of the time. Again, stuff to look for physically, the skin tags, that acanthosis nigricans. If you have gray, ashy, or like black, your skin is turning black or gray, especially in skin folds, like the inner elbow, your neck, the backs of your knees, maybe your groin. Idiopathic hypertension, if you have high blood pressure and no one really knows why. All kinds of other stuff. And especially difficulty losing weight. If you are already exercising, already eating what you think is a good diet, and yet weight will not budge, particularly if you have a lot of weight to lose, not just the last 5 or 10 pounds, a lot of weight, and particularly if you carry it around your midsection, but that's not, that's not like 100% true. Like if you just have a lot of weight to lose in general, and it's not going anywhere, despite the fact that you are putting forth every effort to lose it, it may be that your insulin is high most of the day and it's blocking your body from being able to break down the fat. I think I'm going to end this. We're almost at 34 minutes here. This really was just to be an introduction to this concept of how huge this unrecognized chronic hyperinsulinemia is, because we're so myopically focused on the blood sugar. And I hope anyway that it's going to be really educational for you, really eye-opening. Probably some of these videos are going to be videos you might want to pass along to people in your life that are not doing low-carb diets. They would never do a low-carb diet, but guess what? They can't figure out why their blood pressure is through the roof. Maybe they're already taking 2 or 3 medications and it's still through the roof. They can't figure out why they can't lose weight. They can't figure out why they have skin tags. They can't figure out why they have gout, even though they're doing what the doctor told them. They're not eating red meat. They're not eating shellfish. They're not eating, drinking alcohol. So I'll have individual videos on many of these conditions. I actually have blog posts already written, so maybe I'll link to the post, and for those of you that do want to read, for those of you that are readers like me, you can take your time and make your way through those posts. But over the next several weeks and months, I will release videos dedicated, individually to some of these conditions. And I guess that's it for now. I hope you're looking forward to this. This would probably seemed a little boring compared to some of my other videos, but I can tell you, in my professional and personal life opinion, but really my professional opinion, this is probably some of the most important stuff I'm ever going to talk about. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell everyone you know to subscribe. My website is tuitnutrition.com, T-U-I-T nutrition.com. My Twitter handle is the same, tuitnutrition. My YouTube channel, obviously, also by the same name. Let's see, coming up, I will be speaking in Ottawa Saturday, September 21st. So I'll be there. Dr. Eric Westman will be there, Sally Norton, the oxalate lady, and Dr. Robert Sivas, and Andrea Lombardi, I think Lombardi, not Lombardo, from the IDM clinic up in Toronto, the fasting experts and stuff. She'll be there. So lots of keto, low carb oriented people are going to be speaking. Ottawa, September 21st. If you want details on that, I'll put a link. But it's keto-retreat.ca, keto-retreat.ca. You can find information on the Ottawa event. October 12th, another Saturday, I'll be speaking in Raleigh, North Carolina. That is, again, Dr. Westman will be there, and Eric Thorne, a keto-friendly cardiologist, will be there. Who doesn't love a cardiologist who tells his patients to eat bacon and eat butter and eat cheese and eat red meat, and it's all good? Who else is going to be there? Andy Fung, Dr. Fung with the PH, not Jason Fung. Andy Fung, who's another doctor from North Carolina, he'll be speaking. Our friends Christy Sullivan from Cooking Keto with Christy and Casey Durango from Go Keto with Casey will be there. Oh, Jackie Eberstein, how could I forget? How could I forget the one and only? Also in Raleigh, October 12th, Nurse Jackie Eberstein. If you have not heard the name Jackie Eberstein before and you live anywhere near Raleigh, come to Raleigh on October 12th, because Jackie Eberstein worked with Dr. Robert Atkins. The Dr. Atkins, she was the head nurse at the Atkins Center for like 30 years. She knows more about keto and has been doing keto longer than almost anyone in the field. She's beyond a wealth of information. I could never stop picking her brain. So anyway, we will all be in Raleigh. And for information on that, I'll have links to everything in the notes. You can just kind of scroll through to pick and choose what you need to click on. But you can find more information about that Raleigh event at adaptyourlife.com/events. Adaptyourlife.com/events. And that's it. I'll put a link to this book in the video too. If you want to buy it, you can get it on Amazon. Again, super, super small, not a long book at all. And I guess that's it. I will catch you next time, and I give my email address. Very few of you ever contact me, but I can't keep up with the comments all the time. So if you have a question that you must get a direct answer from me, or you have ideas for videos that you want me to do, and I've already heard from many of you, so thank you. I'll be getting to those ideas over time. If you have an idea, a topic for a video, my email address is tuitnutrition@gmail.com. And okay, one last plug. If you like this information, if you find it helpful, if you are grateful that somebody is talking keto without the crazy. Doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be confusing or elitist. If you like that message and you want to support me doing more of it, you can support me on Patreon, patreon.com/2itnutrition. You can support me for as little as $2 or $3 a month, but $5 a month and above gets you some privileges. $5 a month gets you early access to blog posts. Every blog post I write going forward, you will get to read a few days ahead of the rest of the world at the $5 level. The $10 level a month gets you something else. If you hate Patreon for some reason, you can still support me on PayPal, paypal.com, and you can just send whatever inspires you, whatever motivates you, moves you, to my email address, 2itnutrition@gmail.com. That is enough promotion for me. Thank you for watching. As always, I'll see you next time. Bye.